Now that a user can log in using Google or username and password, the next step is that how can we know that a user is indeed logged in? Remember that HTTP servers are stateless, meaning that as soon as a user logs in, our server does not remember the login user. So how are we going to determine if a user is logged in? Before we do that, let's see the logging in process one more time. I have started the front end, likewise the back end. And for this, I'm going to log in using my username and then the password. And after logging in, our server is going to generate a token and save it into the cookie. So I'm going to log in using this account called Masentech and provide as that, likewise the password as that. Before I sign in, open the console, right click and then click on inspect and then click on application. And over here we have these tabs, and that is local storage. In case we are saving the token in the local storage, it will be available here. But we are going to save it inside the cookies, in this case this one. As you can see, we don't have any token being set in our browser. But after I log in, let me go ahead and then log in. As you can see, the token has been set for us automatically. Awesome. So the next step is that let's also go ahead and then log in using Google. And we're going to see the same token being generated. But logging in with Google, we haven't done it on the client side. But we can do it at the back end by using this manual way of logging in. So let me copy this one and let me delete this token from here, delete that and open a new tab, paste that, and the endpoint is /auth and then the /Google, which is this one. And let's sign in with this account or this account. Now let me check the console of my browser and then click on application. As you can see, the token has been generated. And let me show you where the token were generated. And we have done it before. So let's get into the users and let's begin with the local login in, which is this one. And this is where we are setting the token in the cookie. Likewise, Google sign in this case here, we are also setting the token in the cookie. That is why you see it here being set as that. Next step is that how are we going to tell our server that the user is logged in? And since we are saving the token in the cookie, we need to do some manual setup, and that is manual configuration. But this approach is a more secured one than using the local storage. So next step is that we are going to create a controller on the server. And that server is always going to check if we have a token in the cookie. Therefore, the controller will determine either a user is logged in or not. So let's go ahead and do that before we get back to the front end and then integrate into it. So here I'm going to collapse this and then copy one of these comments and change this one to check user off. So here is going to be as check authenticated, which is equal to async handler and then async, then the callback function, and here we go, supposed to be colon over here. So inside here we are going to take the token from the request, and remember we can get a token from the cookies. So if I log something like rec.cookies, and now let's go ahead and then call this particular controller. So let's get back to the router, which is this, and let me duplicate one of these, and this one is check authenticated, supposed to be authenticated as that. So the path is going to be check authenticated. Let's go ahead and call this particular endpoint. So back here, I'm going to duplicate one of these and I will say check user auth, and it's get request, and the endpoint is check authenticated. And if I hit send, as you can see, our server is hanging, but if you check inside the terminal, we have undefined, meaning that the user is not logged in. So let's go ahead and log in from here and then hit send. As you can see, the user is logged in, and if you check the headers, we see the token being set here. But if I try to hit this endpoint to check if a user is logged in, let me try out and let's check the terminal, and we still see undefined. So why is this so? Can you tell me the reason why we don't see the authentication status inside the cookie? The answer is that by default, Express does not pass the cookie from the request header automatically, unless we configure our server to pass the cookie. This is where we are going to install a package called cookie parser. So here as npm I cookie-parser and hit enter. And let's run the server and let's require the cookie parser inside the server.js file. So let me duplicate this one and change this one to cookie parser, and then this one as cookie parser. Alright, and then we are going to, the next step is that we are going to use this one as a middleware. So here is going to be app.use, and then pass in the cookie parser as a function call. Like I said, that the purpose for this middleware, and that is the cookie parser, is that it is going to automatically parse its cookie header and then populate the rec.cookies with an object keyed by the cookie names as we set upon logging in, which is this one here. Alright, so that is it. So let me add some small comment here as automatically passes with this one being configured. If I hit this endpoint, now let's check the console. Let me open it, and this time around we have the token down here. How awesome it is. Alright, so next step is that we are going to take this token and then verify it to make sure that indeed this token is valid. So let's continue with the configuration of the check auth controller, which is this one. So here we know that we can get the token from the rec.cookies, and here I can grab the token as that. So here I'm going to assign to what is called const token is equal to that as that. So let's check in case we don't have token, then we are going to return and use res.status and provide 401, and that is not authorized, and then .json, and we will say that is authenticated, and we will say false. Alright, so let's go ahead and then bring in try and catch here. And in the try, we are going to decode the user. So here as const, and that is decoded, which means we are going to verify the token, which is jwt.verify. And here we're going to pass in the token that we want to verify from the cookie. And the second argument is going to be the key that we use to sign this token as env.jwt-secret. So if I log the decoded, this one is a user that we use to sign the token. So if I hit send, let's check the terminal and we have the user with this particular ID. So we can go ahead and find the user and send back to the user. Alright, so here it is ID. So let's continue, and here let's find the user, which is equal to const user is equal to await the user model dot find by ID, and the ID can be found on the decoded dot ID. So if you lock the user, you're going to see the actual user. Let's try out, and let me hit, and let's check. And indeed, this is a user. So we can send the ID of the user and then the username and maybe the profile picture to be used in the navbar. And that is it. Don't try to send some sensitive information back to the user. So now let's check if there is no user. So here we will say that isAuthenticated is false. So let me copy the same thing and place it here. Else we know that the user is logged in, and this is where we are going to send the actual information as return and res.status and 200, meaning everything is okay, .json, and then is authenticated. We will say true, and I want to send the ID of the user as user dot underscore ID, and then the username as user dot username, and then the profile picture is user dot profile picture. And that is it. So in case something goes wrong, then we are going to return this, and then going to pass in the error as that. Supposed to be this error. Awesome. So let's try out. If I hit send, now we got isAuthenticated being set to true. Awesome. So this means that we are going to constantly hit this controller to check if a user is logged in on the client side. Alright, let's continue in the next video.